We need to talk about your living situation here. You've been freeloading long enough." Those words came out of my brother's wife, Amanda, while I was making breakfast in my own kitchen. My own kitchen, in the house that I actually owned. But she had no idea. She stood there with her arms crossed, looking at me like I was some charity case she'd been generously supporting out of the goodness of her heart. And I just smiled and flipped my pancake, knowing what was about to unfold would be the most satisfying moment of my entire life. I'm Riley. I'm 32 years old. And the day my sister-in-law tried to charge me rent for living in my own house was the day I realized just how far her disrespect had gone. But to really understand this story, I need to take you back to where it all started. Back to when my brother Marcus brought Amanda into our lives and everything began to change. Marcus is my older brother by 4 years. Growing up, we were close. Really close. He protected me from bullies at school, taught me how to ride a bike, helped me with homework. We had that bond that some siblings have where you're not just family, you're genuine friends. Our parents died when I was 19 and Marcus was 23. Car accident, sudden, devastating. The kind of loss that either tears families apart or brings them closer together. For Marcus and me, it brought us closer. We only had each other. Our parents had left us the family house and a decent amount of life insurance money, not rich. But enough to be comfortable if we were smart about it. Marcus was already working as an electrician, making decent money. I was in college studying computer science. We decided I'd stay in the house, finish school, and Marcus would move to an apartment closer to his work. The plan was always that the house would be mine eventually. Marcus had said it multiple times. "You finish school, get a good job, the house is yours. I don't need it. I'll buy my own place someday." It was understood. An unspoken agreement between siblings who trusted each other completely. I graduated, got a great job as a software developer at a tech company, started making really good money. Like, better than I ever expected. Started saving, investing, being smart with my finances, because that's what my parents would have wanted. And I kept living in the family house, paying all the bills, maintaining it, making it my own while still honoring the memories we'd made there. Marcus was happy for me, proud even. He'd come over for dinner once a week. We'd talk about our lives, our jobs, our plans. Everything was good. Simple, the way siblings should be. Then 3 years ago, Marcus started dating Amanda. They met at some friend's party. She worked in real estate sales, dressed fancy, talked about money a lot, about investment properties and market values and building wealth. She was pretty, confident, the kind of woman who knew what she wanted and wasn't shy about going after it. At first, I liked her. She seemed good for Marcus. He was happy, more outgoing, more social. She pushed him to be more ambitious with his career, to think bigger. I thought that was positive, healthy even. But then little things started bothering me. The way she'd comment on the house when she visited. "This place is so outdated. You should really renovate, modernize it, increase the value." Or she'd ask about my job, my salary, my savings. Personal questions that felt intrusive, like she was calculating my net worth every time we talked. Marcus and Amanda got serious fast. Engaged after 6 months. Married after a year. I was happy for my brother. Really. He deserved love. Deserved to build a life with someone. The wedding was nice. Small. I was Marcus's best man. Stood up there and gave a speech about how Marcus had always taken care of me, and now it was Amanda's turn to take care of him. Everyone laughed, cheered. It was a good day. After they got married, things changed. Amanda started inserting herself into decisions about the family house. Even though she didn't live there, even though it had nothing to do with her. She'd suggest renovations, tell me I should rent out rooms to make extra income, comment on how much the house was probably worth, and how I was sitting on valuable real estate. Riley, you know this house is worth at least $400,000 in this market. You're basically throwing away money by not leveraging it properly. I like living here. It's my home. But think about the investment potential. You could buy something smaller, cheaper, invest the difference, build real wealth. I just shrug it off. Change the subject. I didn't want to argue with my brother's wife. Didn't want to cause problems in their marriage. So I stayed quiet. Let her comments roll off. Figured she'd eventually realize I wasn't interested in her real estate advice. Then, about a year ago, Marcus and Amanda started having money problems. She'd gotten into flipping houses, buying fixer-uppers, renovating them, selling for profit. It had worked well at first. She'd made some good money. But then she got overconfident. Bought 3 properties at once. The market shifted. Renovations cost more than expected. She couldn't sell them as fast as she needed to. Suddenly, they were drowning in mortgages and construction loans. Marcus came to me stressed. Really stressed, said they might lose everything if they couldn't turn things around. Asked if I could loan them some money, just to get through the rough patch. I did. Gave them $20,000. My brother needed help. Of course I helped, but Amanda wasn't grateful. She was entitled. Like I owed them that money. Like it was the least I could do, considering everything they'd done for me. What they'd done for me. I couldn't figure out what she meant. Marcus had always been there for me, sure. But this was different. This was his wife's business venture gone wrong. This wasn't about sibling support. This was about bad investment decisions. The money didn't solve their problems. Amanda kept making risky choices, kept doubling down instead of cutting her losses. Within 6 months, they'd burned through everything. Lost all 3 properties. Declared bankruptcy. Had to move out of their apartment because they couldn't afford rent. That's when Marcus called me, sounding desperate, embarrassed. Riley, I hate to ask this, but Amanda and I need a place to stay, just temporarily. While we get back on our feet, can we crash at the house for a few months? We'll pay rent. Help with bills. We just need somewhere stable while we figure things out. My brother needed help. How could I say no? Of course. You don't need to pay rent. It's the family house. You can stay as long as you need. That was my first mistake. Not setting clear boundaries, not establishing rules, not protecting myself from what was about to happen. They moved in with 2 suitcases each and a lot of boxes. Said it would just be a couple months. 3 tops. They'd save money. Marcus would pick up extra work. Amanda would get back into real estate sales instead of flipping. They'd be out before I knew it. The first month was okay. A little crowded, a little awkward having my brother and his wife in the house, but manageable. Marcus was respectful, quiet, helpful around the house. Amanda was polite, distant. Spent most of her time in their room on her laptop looking at real estate listings. But then month 2 came, and Amanda started acting like she owned the place. Started rearranging furniture without asking. Threw away some of my mom's old decorations that she said were cluttering up the space. Started inviting her friends over without telling me. Hosting these weird real estate networking meetings in my living room. I tried to talk to Marcus about it. He'd always say the same thing. I know, I'm sorry. Amanda's just stressed. The bankruptcy hit her hard. She's trying to rebuild her career. Once we're back on our feet, we'll be out of your hair. Month 3 came and went. Then month 4. Then month 5. No signs of them leaving. Marcus was working, making money. But Amanda insisted they needed to save more before they could afford a place. That they couldn't just move anywhere. They needed the right neighborhood, the right property. Something with investment potential, and her behavior got worse. She started making rules. In my house, she'd tell me what I could and couldn't do. Riley, can you not cook fish? The smell lingers and I hate it. Or, Riley, my friends are coming over Thursday night. Can you make yourself scarce? Maybe go to a movie or something? I was getting pushed out of my own home, little by little, and Marcus wouldn't stand up to her. Would just give me these apologetic looks and say, just bear with us a little longer. Then, 6 months in, Amanda started talking about renovations again, but this time, about renovating my house, talking about how we could maximize the value of the property, how she had great ideas for updates that would make it more marketable someday. Someday, I'm not selling this house. Well, you might change your mind, and when you do, you'll want it to be worth as much as possible. Trust me, I know real estate. The real estate that bankrupted you? She didn't like that. Got cold. Stopped talking to me for a week. Marcus was caught in the middle, trying to keep peace between his wife and his sister. I felt bad for him, but I was also getting increasingly frustrated with the situation. Month 8. They were still there, still showing no signs of leaving. I'd try to bring it up. So, any luck finding a place? Marcus would always have an excuse. They needed a few more months of savings. Amanda was waiting for the right opportunity. The market wasn't good right now. Always something. Meanwhile, Amanda was treating the house more and more like it was hers. She'd bought new furniture, without asking. Painted one of the guest rooms a color I hated. Started talking about our house when her friends came over. Like she lived there, like she had any ownership. That's when I decided I needed to protect myself legally. Needed to make sure there was no confusion about who owned this house. I went to a lawyer, explained the situation. Said I wanted documentation proving the house was mine and mine alone. Just in case things got messy, the lawyer pulled up the deed. And that's when I discovered something shocking. The house wasn't in my name. It was still in my parents' names. Because when they died, we'd never properly transferred the deed. It was just assumed the house was mine. Marcus and I had an understanding, but legally, the house was still part of my parents' estate. You need to sort this out, the lawyer said. File the proper paperwork, get the deed transferred to your name. Otherwise, technically, you and your brother both have claim to this property as heirs. I panicked. If Amanda found out the deed wasn't properly transferred, she'd push Marcus to claim half the house. I knew she would. She'd see it as an asset they could leverage, could borrow against, could use to rebuild their finances. I asked the lawyer to start the paperwork immediately, to transfer the deed to my name only. The lawyer said since Marcus and I were both heirs, I'd need Marcus to sign paperwork giving up his claim, agreeing that the house was mine as we'd always intended. Just ask your brother to sign. If you two had an agreement, he'll sign. Simple. But I couldn't ask Marcus. Not with Amanda in his ear. Not with their financial situation so desperate. She'd convince him to claim half, to use it as leverage, to force me into some arrangement that benefited them. I knew she would. I'd seen how she operated, how she thought. Everything was about money, about assets, about maximizing value. So I did something sneaky. Something I'm not entirely proud of, but something I felt I had to do. I told Marcus I needed him to sign some papers related to our parents' estate, some final paperwork to close out their accounts. He trusted me, didn't read carefully. Just signed where I showed him. And one of those papers was him relinquishing his claim to the house, agreeing it was mine alone. The deed transfer went through. The house was officially, legally, 100% mine, and neither Marcus nor Amanda knew. They still thought the house was in some weird estate limbo, that it was technically our parents' house that we were both living in. Month 10 of them living with me, I was miserable. Amanda had basically taken over, had redecorated most of the house, had her friends over constantly, treated me like a roommate in my own home, like I was lucky to be there, like she was doing me a favor by allowing me to live in my parents' house. And then came the conversation that changed everything. The conversation where Amanda decided to charge me rent. It was a Saturday morning. I was making breakfast, pancakes, my dad's recipe. One of the few things that still made me feel connected to my parents. Amanda came downstairs, dressed in her fancy athleisure outfit. Hair and makeup already done, even though it was 8 a.m. She had that look on her face, that determined look, like she'd made a decision and was about to announce it. "Riley, we need to talk." "Okay, want some pancakes?" "No, this is serious. Sit down." I didn't sit, just kept cooking, flipping my pancake, waiting to hear whatever it was she was about to say. "Marcus and I have been talking. We've been here almost a year now. And while we appreciate you letting us stay, we think it's time we formalize the arrangement." "Formalize it how?" "We need to start treating this like a real living situation, with real rules and real financial arrangements. Right now, it's too informal, too unclear. That's not fair to anyone." "What are you suggesting?" She pulled out her phone, had clearly prepared a whole speech. "Marcus and I have been covering about 40% of the monthly household expenses, utilities, internet, some groceries, but we're all living here, using the space. It should be split 3 ways, equal shares. That's only fair." "Okay, I can pay a third of the expenses." "Good, that's $800 a month. Plus, we need to talk about rent." I stopped, put down my spatula, turned to look at her. "Rent?" "Yes, rent. Riley, this is a valuable property. If any of us were renting apartments on our own, we'd be paying at least $1,500 a month, probably more. Since we're all living here, we should all be contributing rent." "Rent to who?" "To the estate, to hold in an account for when the house eventually gets sold or properly inherited. That way, it's fair. Everyone pays, everyone contributes, no one is freeloading." "Freeloading?" She just called me a freeloader. In my own house. The house I legally owned. The house I'd been maintaining and paying for over a decade. "You think I'm freeloading?" "I think we all need to contribute equally. You're living here rent-free while Marcus and I are trying to rebuild our finances. That's not really fair, is it? I've been living here for 10 years, long before you moved in, but you don't own it. Not legally, it's your parents' house, part of their estate. Which means both you and Marcus have equal claim to it, which means we should all be contributing equally." There it was. The assumption that the house wasn't mine, that Marcus had equal claim, that she had any say in what happened here, and she was using that assumption to try to extract rent from me, to make money off me. In my own house, I smiled. Couldn't help it. The irony was too perfect. "How much rent are you suggesting?" $1,500 a month per person. That's market rate for a room in a house this size in this neighborhood. It's actually a good deal. So you want me to pay $1,500 in rent plus $800 in expenses. $2,300 a month total. That's what Marcus and I are paying. That's what's fair. And where does this rent money go? Into an account. For the house, for future maintenance or eventual sale. Or maybe Marcus and I could buy out your half when we're back on our feet. We haven't decided yet, but the point is, everyone pays equally. No freeloaders. There was that word again. Freeloader. She really thought she was the generous one here. Really thought she was doing me a favor by allowing me to pay rent to live in my own house. I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. The moment where I got to reveal the truth and watch her face fall. "Amanda, I need to show you something. Wait here." I went to my room. Got the folder with all my legal documents, the deed with my name on it, the paperwork Marcus had signed, the lawyer's letter confirming I was the sole owner, brought it all downstairs. Laid it on the kitchen counter, pushed it toward her. "What's this?" "That's the deed to this house. You'll notice the name on it. Riley Patterson. Not my parents, not Marcus. Me. I own this house. Legally. Completely. 100%. She picked up the papers, started reading. Her face went through several emotions: confusion, disbelief, shock, then anger. When did this happen? 2 months ago. I had the deed properly transferred. Marcus signed off on it, agreed that the house was mine as we'd always planned. Marcus signed this? He gave up his claim? He didn't give up anything. The house was always supposed to be mine. He knew that. He agreed to it. The paperwork just made it official. Does he know what he signed? He signed what I asked him to sign. Estate paperwork, which this was. Her face was turning red. You tricked him. You tricked him into signing away his inheritance. It was never his inheritance. It was always mine. Ask him. He'll tell you. We had an agreement. The house was always going to be mine. That's not legal. You can't just trick someone into signing legal documents. I didn't trick anyone. Marcus knew the house was mine. This just formalized what we both already knew. She was shaking now, furious. I want to see a lawyer. I want to contest this. Marcus has rights. Marcus has whatever rights he agreed to, which according to that paperwork he signed, is nothing. This house is mine, legally. And you've been living in my house rent-free for almost a year while demanding I pay you rent. The irony is pretty incredible, isn't it? She slammed the papers down on the counter. This is fraud. This is manipulation. Marcus didn't know what he was signing. Then he should have read it more carefully. But I don't think he'll be upset. Because he knew this was the plan. He agreed to it years ago. The paperwork just caught up with reality. We'll see about that. When Marcus gets home, we're going to talk about this. And then we're calling a lawyer. Go ahead, call a lawyer. But you'll find that everything is legal and binding. And while you're at it, let's talk about you paying me rent. You've been living in my house for almost a year. You've been using my utilities, my internet, my space. You've redecorated without permission. You've acted like you own the place. I think it's time you start contributing. What did you say? $1,500 a month, plus half the utilities? Sounds fair to me. She looked like she wanted to strangle me. You can't charge us rent. We're family. You just tried to charge me rent. In my own house. So yes, I absolutely can charge you rent. In fact, I think I will. $1,500 per month per person, plus half the utilities. That's $3,000 a month plus expenses. I'll draw up the paperwork this afternoon. You're insane. Marcus won't agree to this. Then you're welcome to move out. In fact, I think that would be best for everyone. I'll give you 30 days' notice. That's generous, considering you're not even formal tenants. You're kicking us out? You're kicking out your own brother? I'm setting boundaries. Something I should have done a year ago. You've been here too long. You've overstepped too much. And now you've tried to charge me rent in my own house. That's the last straw. You need to go. Marcus won't leave. You're his sister. He won't choose you over me. Then I guess we'll find out when he gets home. She grabbed the papers, stormed upstairs. I heard her on the phone. Loud, angry. Calling Marcus, calling lawyers, calling whoever would listen to her complaints. But I didn't care. I finished making my pancakes, sat down and ate them slowly, savoring every bite. Enjoying the peace of knowing I'd finally stood up for myself. Finally set boundaries. Finally taken back control of my own house. Marcus came home early, came straight to the kitchen where I was reading. He looked stressed, confused, worried. Riley, Amanda says you own the house? That I signed paperwork giving up my claim? That's correct. Do you remember 2 months ago when I asked you to sign estate documents? Yeah, you said it was to close out Mom and Dad's accounts. Part of those documents transferred the deed of the house to me. You signed agreeing that the house was mine. I didn't know that's what I was signing. Would it have mattered? You always said the house was mine. That was our agreement. The paperwork just made it official. He sat down heavily, ran his hands through his hair. Riley, I did always say that, and I meant it. The house is yours. But I didn't realize you were actually doing the legal transfer. I thought we were just letting things be. We couldn't just let things be. Legally, we were both heirs. That was a problem. What if something happened to one of us? What if you died? Amanda would have had claim to half the house. I couldn't risk that. He winced. Amanda? She's really upset. She tried to charge me rent. In my own house. She called me a freeloader. I know. I told her that was wrong. That you've been letting us stay here rent-free as a favor. That she shouldn't have said that. But she did say it. And she meant it. And that tells me exactly what she thinks of me. She sees me as someone taking advantage of her generosity. In my own house that I've owned and maintained for a decade. She's just stressed about money. The bankruptcy messed with her head. She sees everything as a financial transaction now. That's not my problem, Marcus. I've been more than generous. I let you stay here rent-free for almost a year. I loaned you $20,000 that I'll probably never see again. I've put up with Amanda redecorating, making rules, treating my house like it's hers. But this? Trying to charge me rent? That's where I draw the line. I get it, I do, and I'm sorry. Amanda crossed a line. But Riley, we don't have anywhere else to go. We're still rebuilding. We need a few more months. You've needed a few more months for the past 8 months. When does it end? When do you actually leave? He didn't have an answer. Just looked at me with those puppy dog eyes. My big brother who'd always protected me, who'd always been there, who I loved despite everything. But who'd let his wife disrespect me in my own home? Who'd stood by while she slowly pushed me out? Who hadn't stood up for me when I needed him to? I'll make you a deal, I said finally. You can stay, but Amanda has to apologize. A real apology, not a fake, forced one. A genuine acknowledgement that what she said was wrong and that she's been disrespectful. And you both pay rent. A fair amount. Not what Amanda suggested. But something. To help with the increased utilities and groceries. And you commit to a move-out date. A real date. Not just a few more months. An actual date. How much rent? $800 a month total. Split between you. Plus you cover your share of groceries and pitch in with household chores. And you move out in 3 months. No extensions. No excuses. He nodded slowly. That's fair. More than fair. Thank. And Marcus? Going forward, you need to set boundaries with Amanda. She can't treat me like this. I'm your sister. I've helped you more than anyone. And she acts like I'm the enemy. That needs to change. I know. I'll talk to her. I promise. He went upstairs. I heard them arguing. Loud. Amanda's voice shrill. Angry. Protesting. Marcus's voice firm. More firm than I'd heard in a long time. Saying no. Setting boundaries. Actually standing up to her. An hour later, Amanda came downstairs. She looked like she'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged. Her face was red. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. Wouldn't meet my eyes. Riley, I owe you an apology. I waited. Didn't say anything. Let her continue. I was out of line this morning. The things I said, trying to charge you rent, calling you a freeloader, that was wrong. This is your house. You've been incredibly generous letting us stay here. And instead of being grateful, I've been entitled and rude. I'm sorry. It didn't sound completely genuine. Sounded more like words Marcus had made her memorize. But it was something. A start. Thank you. I accept your apology. Marcus told me your offer. $800 a month rent plus groceries. Move out in 3 months. We accept. And Riley, I'll try to do better. I know I've been difficult. The bankruptcy, the financial stress, it's made me into someone I don't like. Someone who only sees dollar signs. I need to work on that. I appreciate that. And Amanda, I hope you do work on it. Because Marcus deserves better. He deserves a wife who respects his family. Who doesn't see everything as a transaction. Who can be grateful when people help her. She nodded, got up, went back upstairs. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe in my own house. Like I'd reclaimed my space, my boundaries, my power. The next 3 months were better, not perfect. Amanda was still Amanda, still calculating, still focused on money, but she was more, too respectful, more careful with her words. She stopped redecorating, stopped making rules, started actually asking permission before inviting people over. It was like that one confrontation had reset the dynamic, had reminded her that this was my house, my space, my rules. Marcus was better too, more present, more aware of how Amanda's behavior affected me. He'd check in, make sure I was okay, actually enforce boundaries when Amanda started slipping back into old habits. It wasn't perfect, but it was closer to the brother I remembered, the one who protected me, who had my back. They saved money, actually saved. Marcus picked up extra shifts. Amanda got a job with a more established real estate company instead of trying to flip houses on her own. They were more stable, more mature, more ready to be on their own. 3 months to the day, they moved out. Found a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but theirs, a fresh start. They packed up their stuff, cleaned their room. Actually left the house in better shape than when they'd arrived, thanks to all Amanda's renovations that I'd initially resented, but now actually appreciated. On their last day, Marcus hugged me at the door. Thank you. For everything. For letting us stay. For calling me out when I needed it. For being the better person even when we didn't deserve it. You're my brother. I love you. Even when you drive me crazy. I love you too. And Riley, I'm sorry. For not standing up to Amanda sooner. For letting her treat you that way. For not protecting you like I should have. That was wrong. We're good. Just don't let it happen again, he laughed. Deal, Amanda hung back, awkward, unsure what to say. Finally, she stepped forward. Riley, thank you. I know I was difficult. I know I didn't make this easy. But you helped us when we needed it most. And you taught me some hard lessons about gratitude and respect. I'll remember that. It wasn't a perfect goodbye, but it was honest. Real. Better than I'd expected. They drove away in their loaded-up car, and I stood in the doorway of my house. My house. Legally, officially, completely mine. And I felt relief. Freedom. Peace. The house was quiet that first night. Almost too quiet. I walked through each room, reclaiming the space, moving furniture back to where I wanted it, putting my mom's decorations back up, making it mine again. And I felt grateful for parents who'd left me this house, for a brother who, despite everything, had always had my back in the end, for the strength to stand up for myself when it mattered most. I also felt grateful for the lesson Amanda had inadvertently taught me. The importance of boundaries, of protecting what's yours, of not letting people take advantage of kindness. I'd been too passive, too accommodating, too worried about keeping the peace. And that had allowed the situation to spiral out of control. But when I finally stood up, finally asserted myself, finally set clear boundaries, everything changed. That conversation where Amanda tried to charge me rent was the wake-up call I needed. The moment where I realized I'd given away too much power, too much control, too much of myself trying to help people who weren't appreciating it. And reclaiming that power, setting those boundaries, demanding respect in my own home, that was one of the hardest but most important things I've ever done. Would I let Marcus and Amanda stay again if they needed help? Probably. because that's what family does. But this time, I'd set clear rules from day one. Clear expectations, clear boundaries. I'd protect myself while still being generous. Because you can be kind and still demand respect. You can be helpful and still set limits. You can love your family and still refuse to let them take advantage. The other lesson? Always get legal stuff sorted out properly. If I'd transferred that deed years ago when I should have, if Marcus and I had formalized our agreement in writing from the start, none of this confusion would have happened. Amanda wouldn't have been able to claim Marcus had rights to the house, wouldn't have been able to demand rent, wouldn't have had any ground to stand on. The paperwork protected me, the legal clarity saved me, and that's something I'll never forget. A few months after they moved out, Marcus called. Said he and Amanda wanted to take me to dinner, to properly thank me, to celebrate their progress. They'd been in their apartment 6 months, were financially stable, had paid off most of their debts, were actually doing well. We went to this nice Italian restaurant, my favorite, the one my parents used to take us to for special occasions. And over pasta and wine, we talked, really talked. About the past year, about what went wrong, about how to move forward. I was entitled, Amanda admitted. Wine had loosened her tongue, made her more honest. I was so focused on rebuilding our finances that I lost sight of everything else. Of gratitude, of respect, of basic human decency. And Riley, you called me out on it. You didn't let me get away with it. That's what I needed. Someone to tell me I was being terrible. I probably should have said something sooner, maybe, but you were patient. You gave me chances. And when I crossed the final line, you stood up for yourself. That's important. That's healthy. Marcus raised his glass. To Riley, for being the best sister. For helping us when we were at our lowest. For teaching us both some hard lessons, and for reminding me what really matters. Family, loyalty, respect. We clinked glasses, and I felt that bond with my brother again. That closeness we'd had before Amanda, before the financial stress, before everything got complicated. It wasn't exactly the same. Too much had happened. Too many boundaries had been crossed. But it was good, real, built on a more mature understanding of each other. How's the house? Marcus asked. You keeping it the way? Amanda renovated or changing it back? Actually, keeping most of it. She had good taste, even if her methods were questionable. Amanda laughed. Actually laughed. I was so annoying. All those changes without asking. I cringe thinking about it. You were going through something. And honestly, the house does look better. So, unintentional silver lining. We talked for hours about their jobs, my job, their plans to maybe buy a house in a few years, my plans to maybe date someone seriously for the first time in years. Normal sibling stuff, family stuff. It felt good, felt right, felt like healing. When we left the restaurant, Amanda hugged me. A real hug. Not the awkward, obligatory ones from before. Thank you for giving us another chance. For not writing us off after how I behaved. Marcus is lucky to have you as a sister. He is pretty lucky, I joked. Hey, Marcus protested, laughing. That was a year ago. Now Marcus and Amanda are doing great. They bought a small starter home. Nothing fancy, but theirs. Paid for with money they saved. No risky investments, no schemes. Just steady work and smart decisions. They've learned, grown. Become better versions of themselves. We have dinner once a month, sometimes at their place, sometimes at mine. Always easy, comfortable, drama-free. Amanda is respectful, grateful. Actually fun to be around when she's not stressed about money. And Marcus is back to being the protective big brother I remember, the one who has my back, who I can count on. And me? I'm still in the family house. My house, living alone, working, saving, building my life. And every time I walk through that front door, I remember the moment Amanda tried to charge me rent. Remember the look on her face when I showed her the deed. Remember taking back my power, my space, my boundaries. And I smile, because that moment changed everything. That moment taught me to stand up for myself, to protect what's mine, to demand respect even from family, especially from family. The house is filled with memories now, not just of my parents, but of Marcus and me as kids, of Amanda's brief but dramatic stay, of lessons learned the hard way, of boundaries set and respect earned. It's more than just a house. It's a testament to survival, to family, to standing your ground when it matters most. And whenever I'm in the kitchen making my dad's pancakes, I think about that Saturday morning, about Amanda standing there with her arms crossed, demanding rent, about how satisfying it was to prove her wrong, to show her that assumptions can be dangerous, that underestimating people can backfire spectacularly. But I also think about what came after, the uncomfortable conversations, the necessary boundaries, the slow rebuilding of trust and respect. Because the satisfaction of that moment wasn't just about proving Amanda wrong. It was about finally valuing myself enough to demand better treatment. And that's a lesson that extends far beyond one, entitled Sister-in-Law. About 6 months after Marcus and Amanda moved out, I started making some changes to my life. Real changes. Not just setting boundaries with family, but examining all the ways I'd been letting people take advantage of my kindness. At work, I'd been taking on extra projects without asking for recognition or raises. With friends, I'd been the one always making plans, always accommodating everyone else's schedules, always being flexible, while others were rigid. The Amanda situation had been a wake-up call. A reminder that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. That generosity should be reciprocated, or at least appreciated. That respect is non-negotiable, even in the name of family harmony. So I started speaking up at work, started asking for what I deserved, got a promotion within 3 months and a significant raise, started requiring friends to meet me halfway, to respect my time, to show up when they said they would, lost a few friends who weren't willing to do that, kept the ones who were, and realized the ones I kept were the ones worth keeping. I started dating too, something I'd put off for years, using work and family obligations as excuses. But really, I'd been scared. Scared of letting someone in, scared of being vulnerable, scared of getting hurt. The Amanda experience had taught me that even family could hurt you, could take advantage, could disrespect you. So what chance did strangers have? But I also realized that fear was keeping me from living fully, from experiencing the good things along with the risk of bad things. So I put myself out there, tried dating apps, went on some terrible first dates, some mediocre ones. And then, about 8 months after Marcus and Amanda moved out, I met someone. His name was Jason. He was a teacher, kind, patient, funny in a quiet, clever way. We met at a coffee shop, both reaching for the same table, both laughing at the awkwardness. He offered to share. We ended up talking for 3 hours. He asked me out properly the next day, dinner at a nice restaurant. We talked about everything, our families, our jobs, our dreams. I told him about my parents dying young, about Marcus and Amanda's stay, about learning to set boundaries. He listened, really listened, didn't try to fix it or minimize it, just listened and understood. That must have been hard, he said, living with family who didn't respect you, in your own house. It was, but it taught me a lot, about myself, about what I will and won't accept. That's healthy. A lot of people never learn that lesson. They let others walk all over them their whole lives. I was one of those people. Until I wasn't. He smiled. I like that, until I wasn't. That's a good philosophy. We dated for a few months, slowly, carefully, Both of us had been hurt before. Both of us were cautious about opening up. But it was good, easy, comfortable in a way that felt right. I introduced him to Marcus and Amanda at one of our monthly dinners. Was nervous about it, worried about what they'd think, worried about Amanda making weird comments or Marcus going into overprotective brother mode. But it went well, really well. Amanda was warm, genuine. Asked Jason about his teaching without any hidden agenda. Marcus was friendly, welcoming. Told embarrassing stories about me as a kid, but in a loving way, not a mocking way. After Jason left, Amanda pulled me aside. He's great, Riley. Really great. You can see how much he cares about you in the way he looks at you. Thanks. I like him. A lot. Good. You deserve someone who treats you well, who respects you, who values you. Coming from Amanda, that meant something. Because she'd learned that lesson too. Had learned what respect looked like, what valuing someone meant, and she'd become someone who could recognize it in others. Jason and I got serious. He started spending more time at my house. Respected my space. Asked before changing things. Contributed, financially, without being asked. All the things Amanda hadn't done. All the things that showed he understood this was my home, not his. And he was a guest I was choosing to welcome. One night, about a year into our relationship, we were sitting on the couch, watching a movie. His arm around me. Charlie, the dog I'd adopted 6 months earlier, sleeping at our feet. And Jason said, "I love you." Simple, direct, honest. "I love you too," I said. And I meant it, really meant it. For the first time in my life, I was in a relationship built on mutual respect, on equal partnership, on genuine care and appreciation. "I know it's early," he said, "but I've been thinking about the future, about us, about what I want." My heart started racing. Was he about to propose? We'd only been together a year. That felt fast. Too fast. "I want to keep things the way they are," he continued. "For now, I'm not rushing anything, but I want you to know that I'm serious about this, about us, that I see a packier future here, that I'm committed." I relaxed. That was perfect. Exactly what I needed to hear, without the pressure of a proposal I wasn't ready for. I feel the same way. I want to take our time, do this right, build something solid. Good. Because Riley, you're the most amazing person I've ever met. The way you stand up for yourself. The way you set boundaries without being cruel. The way you're kind, but not weak. That's rare. Special. And I don't want to mess it up by rushing things. We talked for hours that night. About our future. About moving in together someday. About marriage, maybe. About kids, possibly. All hypotheticals. All possibilities. No pressure. No demands. Just two people planning a life together with honesty and respect. Around this same time, Marcus called with news. Amanda was pregnant. They were having a baby. Their first. After everything they'd been through, all the stress and financial problems and relationship struggles, they were starting a family. "That's wonderful," I said. "Congratulations." "Thanks. We're excited. Nervous, but excited. You're going to be a great dad." "I hope so. I had a good role model." Dad was amazing. He really was. "Riley, I want to ask you something. Would you be the baby's godmother? I know Amanda's sister is probably expecting it. But Amanda and I talked, and we both want you. Because you're the most important person in my life besides Amanda. And we want our kid to have you in their life. To learn from you. To see what it means to be strong and kind and true to yourself." I started crying. Happy tears. Of course, I'd be honored. 9 months later, I was in the hospital holding my niece, Emma. Named after our mom. She was tiny, perfect, with Marcus's eyes and Amanda's nose. And when she wrapped her tiny hand around my finger, I felt something shift in my chest. A fierce protectiveness. A love so immediate and powerful, it took my breath away. "She's perfect," I whispered. "She is," Amanda said from the hospital bed. She looked exhausted but happy, glowing with that new mother radiance. "Thank you for being here. Wouldn't miss it. Riley, I want you to know something. I think about that day a lot. The day I tried to charge you rent. How entitled I was. How disrespectful. And I'm embarrassed. Ashamed, really. But I'm also grateful. Grateful because you standing up to me, setting those boundaries, that changed my life. It forced me to look at myself, to see how I'd become someone I didn't want to be. Someone who saw everything as a transaction, who couldn't appreciate genuine kindness, who took advantage of people's goodness. And I didn't like that person. You've changed. A lot. I see it. I hope so. Because I want to be the kind of mother who raises Emma to be like you. Strong, principled, kind but not weak. Someone who knows her worth and demands respect. She's lucky to have you as a mom. We're lucky to have you as a godmother, as family, as someone who loved us enough to call us out when we needed it. Marcus came back with coffee, looked at his daughter, his wife, his sister, his family, and smiled. This is perfect. This moment, right here, this is everything. And it was. It really was. Jason proposed 6 months later, not in some grand public way, but quietly, privately, in the kitchen of my house while I was making pancakes. My dad's recipe, the recipe I'd been making that Saturday morning when Amanda tried to charge me rent. "Riley Patterson, will you marry me?" He was holding a ring, simple, elegant, exactly my style. And he was looking at me with so much love, so much certainty, so much respect. Yes, absolutely yes. We got married a year later. Small ceremony in the backyard of my house. Our house now. Because Jason had moved in 6 months before the wedding, had sold his condo, had committed fully, and we'd made the house ours together, blending our styles, our tastes, our lives. Marcus was my man of honor. Walked me down the aisle in the place of our dad, cried through his speech about how proud he was of me, how I'd taught him what strength really meant, how I'd shown him that loving someone means respecting them, not controlling them, how Amanda and I had both taught each other important lessons about family and boundaries and growth. Amanda was there with Emma, who was now 2 years old, wearing a tiny flower girl dress, dropping petals everywhere except where she was supposed to, making everyone laugh, bringing joy to the day in the way only toddlers can. Jason's vows made me cry. He talked about respecting me, honoring my boundaries, building a partnership based on equality and mutual support. He talked about how he'd never try to change me, never try to control me, never take advantage of my kindness, because he loved me exactly as I was, strong and kind, firm and gentle, his equal in every way. My vows were similar. I talked about finding someone who saw me, really saw me, who valued my strength instead of trying to diminish it, who understood that love without respect is just control with a prettier name, who wanted to build something together, not take something from me. We honeymooned in Italy, 2 weeks of food and wine and art and history, 2 weeks of being completely present with each other. No work, no obligations, no distractions, just us, building memories, strengthening our foundation, starting our marriage right. When we got back, the house felt different, felt more complete. Because it wasn't just my house anymore, it was our house. Jason's and mine, built on the foundation my parents left, enhanced by Amanda's renovations, made whole by genuine partnership. We talked about kids, decided to wait a few years, to enjoy being married, to travel, to build our careers, to be sure we were ready, no rush, no pressure, just honest conversations about what we wanted and when we wanted it. Work continued to go well. I got another promotion, was now managing a team of developers. making good money, building a reputation as someone who was technically skilled but also a strong leader. Someone who set clear expectations, who gave honest feedback, who demanded respect but also gave it. All lessons learned from that experience with Amanda. All skills developed from learning to set boundaries and stand up for myself. Jason thrived too. Got a position at a better school, with better pay and better support. Started a program helping at-risk kids. Made a real difference in young lives. I was proud of him. Proud of us. Proud of what we'd built together. Emma grew, started preschool, was smart and funny and full of personality. Marcus and Amanda brought her over every week. For dinner, for playtime with Charlie. For building the relationship between aunt and goddaughter. She called me Auntie Ree. Would run to me when they arrived. Would show me her drawings, her toys, her new skills. And I loved her fiercely. Completely. In a way, I never imagined possible. One day, when Emma was 4, she asked me a question. Auntie Ree, why don't you have kids? Your Uncle Jason and I aren't ready yet. Maybe someday. But you'd be a good mommy. You're good at everything. I laughed. I'm not good at everything, sweetie. But thank you. Mommy says you taught her how to be strong. What does that mean? I looked at Amanda, who shrugged, smiled, had clearly been talking to Emma about me. About our history. In age-appropriate ways, but still. It means your mommy and I learned from each other. We helped each other grow, become better people. That's what family does. Oh, I want to be strong like you and mommy when I grow up. You will be. I know it. Later, after Marcus and Amanda left with Emma, Jason asked me about it. Do you ever regret how things went down with Amanda? Wish it had been less dramatic? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. I think it needed to be dramatic. Needed to be a big moment. Because little moments hadn't worked. Subtle hints hadn't worked. Being patient hadn't worked. Sometimes you need a big, uncomfortable confrontation to create real change. That's wise. It's learned. Painfully learned. The best lessons usually are. We sat on the porch, watching the sunset, Charlie at our feet, and I thought about how far I'd come. From the people-pleasing younger sister who couldn't say no, who let Amanda walk all over her for months, who was too scared to set boundaries, to the woman I was now, confident, assertive, respectful of others but also demanding respect in return, married to a wonderful man, godmother to an amazing little girl, successful in my career, content in my life, all because I'd finally stood up for myself, finally valued myself enough to demand better, finally realized that being kind doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. That family love should include respect, not just obligation. That Saturday morning when Amanda tried to charge me rent in my own house was the catalyst. The breaking point. The moment everything changed. And while it was uncomfortable and confrontational and stressful at the time, it was also necessary. Essential, even. Because it forced conversations that needed to happen. Set boundaries that needed to be set. Created change that needed to occur. Would I go back and do it differently? Maybe handle it with less drama? Communicate better earlier on? Perhaps. But I also know that sometimes the dramatic moments are the ones that stick, the ones that create lasting change, the ones that become turning points in your life story. And this was definitely a turning point, not just in my relationship with Marcus and Amanda, but in how I saw myself, how I valued myself, how I moved through the world. 5 years after Amanda tried to charge me rent, Jason and I decided we were ready for kids. Started trying. Got pregnant within a few months. Had a healthy pregnancy. And welcomed a daughter into the Badara world. Sophie. Named after my grandmother. Marcus and Amanda were at the hospital, with Emma, who was now 9. Emma held her cousin gently, carefully. With so much wonder. She's so tiny, Auntie Ree. You were this tiny once. Really, really. I held you, just like this, when you were born. And now I'm big. You are. And someday, Sophie will be big too. And you'll teach her things. Show her the world. Be her big cousin. Like Uncle Marcus was my big brother. Emma took that responsibility seriously, became Sophie's self-appointed protector, her teacher, her guide. And watching them together, watching this next generation grow up with love and respect and strong female role models, that felt like victory. Like everything I'd been through had been worth it to create this family, this foundation, this legacy. Amanda pulled me aside while I was nursing Sophie. I think about that day all the time, the rent day, the deed day, whatever we're calling it. Me too, actually, do. You ever tell the story? Like to friends or coworkers? Sometimes, when it's relevant. When someone's dealing with boundary issues, it's a good cautionary tale about assumptions and entitlement and the importance of standing up for yourself. I'm the villain in that story. You're the antagonist, but not the villain. Because villains don't change, don't grow, don't become better. You did all those things. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Thank you. For that. For giving me grace while still holding me accountable. That's a rare gift. We're family. That's what we do. Hold each other accountable, help each other grow, love each other through the hard stuff. I'm grateful for you. For that day, as awful as it was, for what it taught me, for who I became because of it. Me too. I'm grateful too. And I meant it. As hard as that period was, as uncomfortable and stressful and confrontational, it had been transformative. For both of us. For all of us, really. I learned to set boundaries with Amanda. Amanda had learned to value people over profits. I had learned to stand up for myself. And together, we'd all learned what healthy family relationships actually look like. They look like respect, like boundaries, like honest communication even when it's hard, like accountability, like growth, like loving someone enough to call them out when they're wrong, like being secure enough to admit when you're wrong, like forgiving without forgetting, like moving forward without erasing the past. Now, when I walk through my house, I see all of it. The living room where Amanda held her real estate meetings, the kitchen where she demanded rent, the bedroom where she and Marcus stayed for those 10 long months, the walls she painted, the furniture she bought, the changes she made. But I also see the life Jason and I have built. The photos of our wedding, the toys scattered around from Sophie's playtime, the comfortable couch where we watch movies, the dinner table where we host Marcus and Amanda and Emma, the home office where I work, the garden Jason planted, all the pieces of our life together. The house holds all of it, all the history, all the memories, all the lessons, and it's stronger for it, more meaningful for it, not despite what happened, but because of it. Sometimes I make pancakes on Saturday mornings, my dad's recipe. And I think about that day, about Amanda standing in my kitchen with her arms crossed and her demands, about the satisfaction of showing her the deed, about the look on her face, about the confrontation that followed, about everything that came after. And I smile, because that day changed my life, set me on a path toward self-respect and boundary setting and demanding better. Toward the life I have now, the family I've built, the person I've become. Would I have preferred to learn those lessons differently? Sure. Would I have chosen to avoid the drama entirely? Maybe. But I also know that sometimes the universe puts us in situations we wouldn't choose because they're the situations we need. The moments that forge us, that test us, that ultimately make us stronger. Amanda trying to charge me rent in my own house was my forging moment. My test. My opportunity to choose myself, to value myself, to stand up for myself. And I passed. I chose right. I stood firm. And everything that came after, All the good things, all the growth, all the relationships and love and success, they all stemmed from that one moment of choosing myself. So yes, I remember it. I think about it. I'm grateful for it. Because that day, that awful, confrontational, uncomfortable day, was the day I finally became the person I was always meant to be. The person who knows her worth, who sets boundaries, who demands respect, who loves fiercely but never at the expense of self-respect. That day was the day I stopped being a supporting character in my own life story and became the protagonist, the hero, the one who stands up to the villain or antagonist, or whatever we're calling Amanda, the one who claims what's hers, who protects what matters, who builds something beautiful from something broken. And every time I see that deed, with my name on it, Riley Patterson, sole owner, I remember. I remember that I am strong, I am capable, I am worthy, I am enough, all by myself. And that everything else, all the love and family and partnership and joy, those are wonderful additions to my life. But they're not what define me. They're not what make me valuable. I do that, all on my own, because I finally learned, on that Saturday morning with pancakes burning and Amanda demanding rent, that the only approval I really need is my own. The only respect that truly matters is self-respect. And the only person who gets to define my worth is me. And that's the real story. Not about the sister-in-law who demanded rent, but about the woman who finally learned to say no, to stand up, to take back her power, to own her life, literally and figuratively, to become the hero of her own story, and to build something beautiful in the process. That's the story I'll tell Sophie someday. When she's old enough to understand. Not to make Amanda look bad, but to show Sophie that she too can be strong, can set boundaries, can demand respect, can stand up for herself even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because that's what strong women do. They know their worth, they protect their peace, they build their lives. And they don't let anyone, not even family, not even people they love, take those things away from them. That's the legacy my parents left me. Not just a house, but the foundation to stand on while I built something even better. Something that honored them while also being uniquely mine. Something that would last long after I'm gone. Something Sophie will inherit someday, along with the story of how her mother learned to be strong. How she stood up to her aunt. How she claimed what was hers. How she became the woman she was always meant to be. And maybe Sophie will have her own moment, her own test, her own opportunity to choose herself. And when she does, I hope she remembers this story. Remembers that her mother once made pancakes while her aunt demanded rent in her own house, and that her mother stood firm, said no, set boundaries, and changed her life in the process. And I hope that memory gives Sophie the courage to do the same, to stand firm, to know her worth, to claim her power, to become the hero of her own story. Because that's what this is really about. Not rent, not houses, not entitled in-laws, but about learning to value yourself enough to demand better, to set boundaries, to say no, to stand up, to claim what's yours, to become who you're meant to be. And that's a lesson worth passing down, a story worth telling, a legacy worth leaving, for Sophie, for Emma, for any young woman who needs to hear that she can be strong and kind, firm and gentle, loving and boundaried, that she can stand up for herself without being cruel, can demand respect without being mean, can protect what's hers while still being generous. Because that's what I learned that Saturday morning. And that's what I'll spend the rest of my life modeling, teaching, passing on. So that the next generation of women in our family knows they have permission to be strong, to set boundaries, to demand respect, to claim their power, to own their lives, literally and figuratively. To be the heroes of their own stories, to build something beautiful, something meaningful, something worth fighting for, something that honors the past while creating something new, something that stands firm against those who would diminish it, something that lasts. That's my legacy. Not just this house, but the lesson it represents, the moment it held, the change it created, the woman it forged, the life it built, the story it tells, and I'm proud of that. Proud of all of it, proud of who I became, proud of what I built, proud of the moment I finally stood up and said no more, proud of the life that came after. So yes, Amanda tried to charge me rent in my own house. And yes, it was the most satisfying moment of my life when I showed her she was wrong. But more than that, it was the most important moment of my life. Because it was the moment I chose me. And everything good that came after started with that choice. That moment. That stand. That Saturday morning with pancakes and demands and deeds and power reclaimed. And I'll never forget it. Never stop being grateful for it. Never stop telling the story. Because it's not just my story, it's every woman's story who's ever had to choose herself, had to set a boundary, had to say no, had to stand up, had to claim her power, had to become her own hero. Subscribe for more real stories like this.